And we're live. I am so excited for this one, Michael. How are you?
Very good. How are you today?
I'm so happy and I'm so excited that I'm with you on this one.
We wore the same. We were both wearing black sweaters.
Oh yeah, this is winter time. I'm always in black, aren't we?
There you go. Very good.
So today we're actually talking about building a habit. Last time we talked about breaking a habit, and you gave us a frame of 5 steps. And let me tell you, I worked on it and it
Nice.
works wonders. I'm not trying to.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very good.
Okay, so today we're actually talking about building a habit. And I want to start by asking you what is the difference of building a habit and breaking a habit?
Right, right. Yeah, yeah. So if you recall when we talked last time, we talked about the neural pathways, about habits that we've built over time, and we're trying to break those, which is hard because our brains are already kind of pre-wired, if you will, to do that thing that we want to stop doing. So that, you're trying to change the direction of your behavior. So you're trying to just stop that pathway and start a new one. Well, with building a habit, if you're not trying to break something and replace it with something, if you're just trying to start something new, they're just you're building a new pathway. So it's about repetition and it's about consistency to keep doing it and make it easy. We'll talk about the steps, of course, but that's what it's just a little different. You're not trying to prohibit yourself from doing something else. You're just trying something new. So technically it should be easier, but it isn't always, because we are trying to tell our body and our brain to do something that we're not accustomed to doing. So it is new.
So, which one do you think is harder, breaking a habit or building a habit?
I think breaking a habit is harder, just because they could be habits that we've been doing for 20 or 30 years, and it's just such a part of our being. Sometimes breaking those types of habits are really hard. So, but your building a habit isn't a walk in the park always, unless I guess your habit is walk in the park every day. But building habit is telling your body and telling your mind that we're going to do this on a daily basis or weekly basis, whatever the frequency is, and it's something that we want to create. And over time, it just takes repetition. There's things that say that if you do a habit for 21 days, it's set. I don't always believe that. I think a lot of people, if you take New Year's resolutions, for example, I think they call January 19th Quitters Day. So people have a New Year's resolution on the first. By the 19th, they call it Quitters Day because we've stopped doing that. There's a lot of reasons why that. I think for a habit to really become something, you've got to focus on it for a good 6 months or more, and then it really is part of your being.
Oh, that's interesting. I never thought about it like that. Like building
Yeah.
habits might seem easier, but it still takes effort, right?
It takes effort and it takes consistency. That's the real key, and that's what we'll talk a little bit about when we talk about the framework and how a framework or a process can help you.
One last question before I get you to jump into the
Yep.
framework. Do you think one helps the other? Like if you're building a good habit, does it help push out a bad one?
Yeah, yeah. I think it's interesting because yes, we only have so much time in the day, and if you fill it with things that are positive that you want to do now, you're going to have less time to do some of the things you did before. Um, and a good example is I think I told you before. I may have told it on the podcast. I quit drinking over a year ago, and I have a lot more time to do other things now, because when you think about drinking, you usually have to go somewhere, you have to buy it, you have to go to sit at a bar with your friends, and not that's not a good thing, but when you start replacing that type of time you spent doing one thing, you get a lot of time to do something else, and that's a great opportunity to build new habits. So they do kind of go hand in hand, but they are also interesting opportunities to maximize your time and your day too. So.
Oh, that actually answered more than my questions. So let us jump right in because I am sure by the end of the session, you're just going to help us all to build a habit and give us the frame on how to do it. So we're very excited to get into it.
Yep.
Why do you think habits actually play such a critical role in achieving success?
Well, I think because success isn't a one-time thing usually. I mean, we all hear stories of somebody winning a lottery or something like that. That you could argue that maybe isn't success. That's just money. But the way that you build a winning attitude about your life, or the way you build things that help you live a different way, it takes time and consistency. So, but if you do it in chunks and smaller bits, and you're not just trying to monumentally change everything, then you're going to be successful over time. And just because whatever you want to do, if it's losing weight or getting fit for a marathon, or even you want to get smarter and you want to start reading more, for example, it doesn't happen overnight. So you need to plan and do it. And habits are the best way to make sure that it's built into your daily being.
That makes so much sense. I've noticed when I stick to a small habit and like just a small one, like going out for like a 5 minute walk a day or something like that,
Yep.
it actually makes the habit easier to pursue the next day. So
Yeah,
maybe this is this is it.
absolutely.
Um, okay, so what I can ask you another question, or I can actually get you
What,
to jump into the frame.
why don't I tell you about the time medit framework, just so we
Okay,
can then we can talk about each step or various steps that you want to talk about. So
please.
let's talk about the 5 steps. The first one is, and this is one that people really fail to do a lot of times. They say they want something, but they don't really understand the why behind it. So understanding the purpose of why you're building that habit is absolutely critical, and that value statement up front that says, I'm going to do this because of these reasons, and those reasons being meaningful has a whole lot to do with how well you're going to stick to it. So that's step one, is identify the purpose. Step two is make it obvious. And we can talk about this one in more detail, but make it obvious, meaning that it's part of your day. So I just use the example, if you want to start reading more, well, put the book in front of something that you know you're going to do. Maybe it's by your car keys, or it's by your where you get ready for bed each night. Whatever it is, make sure that you pass over that book doing what you do in the regular day, so you start thinking about it. It's a cue, it's a mental cue. So make it obvious. The third step is make it easy. So let's stick with the reading a book thing. If you want to start reading more, even if you don't think you have time, just read one page, read a paragraph, do something that day, just to make sure that you have done something. Over time, you're going to get more accustomed to, hey, I'm going to sit down and read more than a page. I'm going to read 3 pages, or I'm going to read a chapter, whatever it is, but at least get started. So make it easy to do. Don't feel like you have to read the entire book every day. Make it just a page. And if it's just a page every day, that's going to be great for you, right? And then the next thing is to make it attractive. So reward yourself. So you do the habit for 21 days or 15 days or 38 days, whatever number you pick, just reward yourself with it. And the reward doesn't have to be monumental. It could be something simple. It could be, taking a friend out for coffee, whatever that you want to do. Just reward, and make sure that you tell yourself, whether you tell your friend or not, tell yourself you're doing this because you did good. And
This is the fun part.
that reward mechanism is huge. And then the last thing is track and reflect, right? I've said this on the Break a Habit too. You need to track what kind of habit tracker are you using. We have a Time Bandit app that you can use, or you can use a piece of paper, whatever, but track it so you can go back and reflect what happened in certain days that made you miss that habit, and can you avoid that, or can you change the sequence of things so you do that. If you don't think about why things didn't work, you can't make it better tomorrow, right? So that's the 5 things. Find a purpose, make it obvious, make it easy, make it attractive, and track it.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, I get it. I get the hang of it. Well, we talked about the why, even in the breaking a habit, and I get it. We've talked about it before, but what's an example of a really powerful why you've seen that helped someone stick to a habit long term?
Yeah, well, I guess the low hanging fruit here would be health, right? So
Okay.
you want to be around to be with your family for a long period of time. So taking better care of yourself, whatever that may mean, eating better, exercise, whatever it is that you want to be healthier from. That purpose may be a particular person or family in general, or maybe you want a particular thing 20 years from now. And so if you don't take care of your vessel today, you're not going to be there 20 years from now, or not be there in a way that you can participate actively. So health is an easy one, but reading could be another one. Let's say that you're in a career and you like it and you're doing all right, but you want your aspiration falls somewhere else. So maybe reading more about your aspiration while you continue to earn, because you need to pay for rent and groceries and things like that. But while you're learning, you're starting to build up that capability to at some point, it's going to be right to make a move to do something that you really truly inspires you. So again, that why is something that is kind of inside of you, and you know that that's where you want to be at some point. That's why I do a workshop for people that works on their hierarchy of values. And usually there's 3 to 5 values that really stick with people, and they really want those things. And if you can tie your habits to those values, you're going to succeed.
I'm trying to figure out my why, and it's taking me a lot of time. So, step two is making it obvious. What are some simple tricks people can use to make their habits more obvious? I know not everything is as easy as putting the shoes by the door so you go running more.
Yeah.
What is one trick they could give us?
Yeah, yeah. So sometimes it's playing a trick on yourself if you've got a to-do list and you put that habit in your to-do list, even though habits probably shouldn't be on your to-do list. Maybe for a period of time you put it there because you know you need to get to it, or put it on your calendar, right? So just drop it on your calendar and say every day at 4 o'clock I'm going to do this. And over time you're probably not going to need that calendar invite, but you can. And I talked about reading earlier. I think making it obvious is just putting that book, and you can do this with any of your habits that you want to do, in the way. You use the shoes by the door metaphor, and I think that's a good one. But make sure that you mentally notice what it is that you want to do in some form or fashion. I think I did a short video months ago. I started doing cold plunge showers right after I've done my shower. I'd crank it down to cold, and it's good for the endocrine system. To me, it really sucks, but I do it anyway. But what I did is my grandson had some little stickers, and I put a sticker in my shower just to remind me before I was done with the shower, it's time to crank it to the cold. And it was this little pink octopus of all things. And it was so obvious because I couldn't turn the shower off without seeing it. So I went to cold, did my little plunge, and then off I went. So it's just that kind of stuff. Make it obvious.
Make it obvious. Okay. And then step three is make it easy.
Yeah.
Why do you think starting small works so well? And how do you stop yourself from trying to do too much too fast?
Yeah. Well, think about the times that we've tried to do something and we stopped, right? It's because
Mhm.
it was overwhelming or it felt too ominous. It felt too big to do that day, right? Well, if you break it down, if you do a small habit over time, it starts to build, right? So if, let's say you just want to start walking more, if you walk around the block, and even though that may not be your goal of, 2 miles a day or whatever it is, at least you stepped outside and you took the foot and you moved it in front of the other several times and you did it. And that just gets you in a habit of doing it, even if it's small. And some days, I travel a lot. There's some days that either I'm not in a situation where I can walk, or I'm not comfortable walking, or it's just there's not a path, there's not a trail. So, I'll walk around the hotel or I'll walk around a parking lot, and it's not as enjoyable, but at least I did the habit of doing it, so it sticks with me over time. And then when I get back to a place that I love to walk, then it's easier to do. So starting small and feeling accomplished that you did it will reward you to do it more in the future. So that's the real key. Don't criticize yourself by not doing the full thing, but doing some of it. We talked about reading is a good example. Maybe you just read one page instead of a chapter, whatever. It's still good. You're still doing it.
That's so true. That's so true. It's like you're proving to yourself you can do it, and then you build from there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, then we go to step four, making it attractive.
Yep.
I have a lot of questions about that, but what are some creative ways people can make their habits more enjoyable? I feel like this step can be a game changer for people who struggle to get started, because if it's attractive, you're going to do it. If it's
Yep.
not, you're just going to neglect it.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah. Well, I think making it attractive, and I don't want to urge anybody to take on a responsibility they're not ready, but if you want to take up walking or exercise and outdoors more, get a dog, right? I love taking my dog for a walk, and he loves me taking him for a walk. In fact, if he doesn't, he makes it obvious that he hasn't been on his walk. So that's a good trigger for number two. But the point being is I love watching him run around and play. And so I have to walk a certain distance to get to a park where he can get off his leash and run. So that's my reward, right? And it's subtle, but it's there because he then gets something that he wants to do, and I get to watch him. And then we clip back on and we head back, and I get the full walk in. So that's a reward for me, and that's in the habit reward. But really what I mean by making it attractive is reward yourself along the way. So don't beat yourself up. The worst thing you can do about habits is start this negative mindset, this self-talk that says, oh, it's so hard, or I hate doing it. How many times have we talked about, especially something like a workout, I hate doing that. But when we do it, we actually go, oh, I really feel better for doing that. And so self-talk is really punishment to yourself. So if you can make it attractive, that you reward yourself for that big workout you did, you get to have, a coffee with a lot, with sugar in it, whatever your reward is, just make it work for you, that you've earned it. And sometimes earning it means that you just did it for 5 days straight and you earned it, and you need to celebrate that. Even if it's a small celebration, your brain and your heart will enjoy that fact that you gave yourself a reward for doing something. And guess what? We do something again when we get a reward.
Yeah, the satisfaction we feel.
Yep.
This is the main thing I'm running after all the time.
Yeah.
Just feeling
Yeah, but
satisfied.
I do want to say that I got into it just a little bit there, but that negative self-talk is the biggest problem with creating habits. So if you could eliminate that, sometimes that makes it attractive itself, right? Instead of oh, I have to go on that walk, I get to go on that walk, right?
So
And it's
change the point of view.
yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Okay. Yeah, I've actually read one documentary about that, and the girl was actually talking about changing the point of view, and she actually said what you said exactly. It's like rather than saying, "Ugh, I have a walk," or like I need to walk now, it's like, "Oh my God, I get to enjoy a walk now." So
yes, yeah,
changing the point of view or how you talk to yourself actually change everything, and it makes it more attractive.
right, exactly, yeah,
That moves us to step number 5. We've
yep,
already talked about tracking before, but
yep.
uh-huh.
No, no, you're right. We have talked about it, but I think it's a simple thing that makes a big difference. Um, we're just kind of programmed that way to see that if we track it, we can tell what we did. Now, we feel such satisfaction, the word that you just used, when we see that for every day that week I did that habit. So that makes us feel good, right? Now, when I say track it and reflect, I add the reflect piece because there may be days that we skip, and it's okay. We have to give ourselves grace. There could be a reason that we didn't do that. Maybe we had to visit a sick friend, or we had something come up that just eliminated our ability to do that habit. Don't beat yourself up and don't dwell on it. Reflect on it and say, okay, I missed it because of these reasons. Those are good reasons to miss that. Now let's get back on track, and let's get that check mark today and tomorrow and the next day and the next day, right? So it's about just keeping yourself accountable and I don't mean by punishing yourself, but by rewarding yourself with, I've done it. I did it for 5 days. Streaks are amazing. And we just added streaks in the app, which I love. It says for 15 days, you've done it. And it's so great, And I actually was talking to one of our customers, and he said, oh, it just bothers me when I break that streak. I just feel like I failed. And I'm like, you just did 15 days straight. You just did 15 days straight. You missed one day. Big deal. Let's go. Now let's do 16 days, and get back on it. Don't beat yourself up. Just keep going.
Well, yeah, because I've been using the app from the last show about breaking a habit, and I've been breaking the habit of doom scrolling, and it's been 10 days straight, but I missed a day one day. I got carried away using checking my Instagram. I just kept scrolling. So this brings me to my question is,
Yep.
what should I do if I miss a day? What should I do if I miss a day whilst I'm building a habit or breaking a habit?
Yep, absolutely. And I'm a Texan, so I'll use a horse reference here. Get back in the saddle. Jump back on that horse and let's go. If you fall off, you just get back on it. If you dwell on it, you're going to just give yourself doubt. You missed a day. Okay, that's all right. Let's go. Let's go to the next one. And the thing about streaks are interesting, and there's a lot of mental things, psychological things we could talk about here, but I won't get into that. But the fact that you did 10 days, I think you said 10 days where you didn't do it, but then you fell off. You still did it those 10 days, and you should feel empowered by that. Guess what you did for 10 days? You did that, and that meant you did something else with the time that you weren't doom scrolling, right? So you were rewarded. And now think about that. 10 days you did it. One day off, okay, big deal. Now jump back on that horse, get in the saddle, and start going again. And you'll get 10 days ahead, or 12 days, or 15, or whatever you're going for next. It's okay that you just can't beat yourself up over it. You just can't. It's really, some people would say it's very counterproductive if you don't think about why you failed. And that's the reflection part. What was it? Were you stressed? What was that trigger? You're talking about breaking a habit. What was that trigger that we talked about in the last one that
Mhm.
caused you not to do that habit? That's the reflection part. It's not meant to make you feel bad about it. You shouldn't feel bad about it. Just get back in the saddle and get going again.
Okay.
Really,
Well,
I know it sounds simple, but it really is that way. If we think about yesterday, we can't change it. We can't. So let's go forward.
so should I react to the day that I fail doing my habit as a reward? Or like,
No, I probably wouldn't do that because that's revisionist history, right? I probably wouldn't do that myself. What I would tell you to do is reflect on it and say, what were you feeling that day? So maybe you can avoid that feeling again, right? If it was stress or loneliness or whatever it was, just make sure you're trying to avoid that trigger again. But then reward yourself when you go. If you went 10 days, set up your next reward for day 11 or 12 ahead of you and get there, and then you get that reward that you've earned, right?
okay. Well, I have another question actually, because we're talking about a very fast-paced world. We're all going and running everywhere. What if I don't have time to start a new habit? Like
Yeah.
if I want to start walking, as we just talked, we were talking about walking a lot, and I just don't have time to start this habit. What should I do?
Yeah. That's it's a challenge, isn't it? Because we are busy, and sometimes we're so busy we can't see forward at all because we're just looking at the now. So there's a couple things I would think that you need to do. One is let's talk about your values and your hierarchy of values. So are we really doing things that support our values every day, right? And you may be, and you just may be that busy, and that's okay. But let's go reevaluate your values and say, okay, here are the three things that are really important to Reem. And if you're doing a lot of things that aren't driving back to those values, then let's change some things, right? That's a bigger view of things. So it's not as easy as just setting up a new habit. But if you talk about setting up a new habit, and that's what you want to do for, let's stay on the walk more, because this is an easy metaphor, and you'll have to think about things that of other ways to do it. But let's say you want to start walking more. Okay, so you go to the market every day. The question would be, can you walk to the market instead of drive? If you drive, can you park further away and walk? Right? And so you can build in tricks to yourself. I park way away from everywhere I go, just to get in some extra steps every day. And when I'm at an airport, instead of just sitting at a gate, I tend to walk. Right? We can all talk on our phones while we walk now. You don't have to be fixed there. So I just look for those opportunities where I can start doing something that benefits me while I'm being forced to do something else. Reading a book is a great way of doing it, right? You can fit in a paragraph or a chapter, or maybe not a chapter, but you can fit in a paragraph in a page while you're doing something else. You could stop right after this call, for example. You could say, okay, I'm going to take 15 minutes and I'm going to go read a paragraph of that book. Now, if you get stuck and you just start doom reading it, I guess, like you're doom scrolling, you just keep reading it, then you may be missing out on something else. But if you just want to start reading more, just read a paragraph, and then go on to everything else you need to do. It might be a refresh break that you'll find that you needed it to refresh on what you're doing. So I don't know if that answered your question. That was a lot. That was a lot. So let's talk about it. So if
It
it's
did.
really big things, you need to sit and think about your values and how your day maps to those values. That's a bigger view of it. If it's small things, just look at just incorporating them into the things you're already doing.
Well, I never thought of going to my daily chores walking so I get extra steps. This is actually a workaround, and I'm tricking my mind into like I am doing what I'm supposed to do, but I'm starting a new habit, which is walking, or like getting a 10-minute walk.
Yeah.
And that actually got me thinking now. Why am I not parking far away? Why am I
Yeah.
not doing that?
Yeah. And you're probably, you don't have to worry about the stress of people trying to get into that first parking spot. Just park over here.
I'm there walking.
Yep.
Awesome. Well, we always start a habit, and New Year's is here. We all get a paper and start writing down what do I need to do, what are the habits I need to start. But we don't stick to it for long. Like, how do I make sure that the habit sticks long term and it's not
Yep.
just for the New Year's resolution and then I'm gone
Yeah. Yeah.
all of
There's two things I'd say about that. The first is I want to talk about willpower, power, or motivation, what some people call it. And second is the system. So willpower and motivation are great emotions. They're fantastic emotions. You can see them on a sporting event sometimes, where you just see that somebody kind of wills themselves to win or something like that. And so there's a great mystique about willpower and motivation, and they're fantastic emotions to feel. The problem is they're emotions that wane. right? You just can't physically maintain a motivation for longer periods of time. You just can't. It's just our bodies aren't equipped to do that. Um, and I'm going to get back to that in a minute about Michael Jordan. I will make a comment about it. But so willpower and motivation are good to get started, but you don't rely on them solely. What you need is a system, a system to track, a system to, what is your plan? If you're going to start a habit, can you start small and build up over time? What is the plan? So really sit and think about the plan, the purpose, and then start acting on that plan. The biggest thing is to not make it an emotional choice, make it a personal choice that you're going to change, whatever that change may be. And if you do that and you have the system to do it, and all the little tricks we talked about, parking further away or fitting it in first thing in the morning, giving yourself some obvious clue, all of those things are your system. Whatever works for you. I've given you the 5 that work for a lot of people, but you may have a variation of that works for you. But consciously think about it. So when you make that New Year's resolution, Reem, and you say, I'm going to do X, have a plan. Have a plan. In that plan, you should think about, in about 19 days, 21 days, I'm probably not going to want to do this. So how am I going to keep going? So when you hit that point, you go, you know what? I planned for this. Now I'm going to do this, right? But it was interesting. I wanted to. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, you did. Yeah, you did.
I don't know. I know you're in Egypt. I don't know if you get. ESPN has this documentary series called 30 for 30. And it's a documentary, and this particular one is a series of them. It's called The Last Dance, about Michael Jordan, the basketball player.
Okay.
And it's fascinating because what they really documented was how during certain challenging times, even a professional athlete, maybe the greatest basketball player ever lived, faced challenges that he had to rise above, and how he would self-motivate himself in days he didn't want to go on, but he did. When his father died and he had to play on Father's Day, he was sick during one of the playoff games, and how he rose above it. And it's a great example of an extreme, a very exceptional athlete doing exceptional things. But we face that every day, where there's a reason not to do it, but is there a reason to do it? And make sure you're focused on the reason that you want to do it.
Okay, focus on the reason.
Purpose. That's purpose. Step 1.
Okay, find my why,
Yep.
make it attractive. I'm writing this down. The moment I'm done here, I'm gonna go to my notebook, and I'm gonna write beside my New Year's resolution the 5 steps, and I'm
Yep.
just have a plan. And we need to catch up, and I'll let you in. What am I doing with all the habits that I promised myself to build? Am I
All right.
sticking to them or not?
That's great. I'd love to hear that. There's 2 things that might help you. If you go to the website, timebandit.io, in the store, there's a free download of the 5 steps. So you can download the Break a Habit and Build a Habit 5 steps. So that's easy. Download it. It's free. You don't even have to put in an email address. Just download it. So it's on the timebandit.io. If you go to the store, you'll see the free download there.
Okay.
Secondly, if you click on Habit Bee on that same website, it is an AI coach. And what I did is I cloned myself. I took my book and I trained this AI engine to answer questions about habit building, motivation, priority management, etc. So if you go to Habit Bee, you do type in your name there so it can remember your chat, so you can come back to it and pick up where you left off. But what you do is you go in and you could say, I want to build a new habit, or I want to break a habit, or I want to prioritize my day because I don't have time for my habits, and it will walk through with you. It's a Q&A conversational type AI that is, so if on that 19th day, Reem, you get stuck, just go to Habit Bee and just say, hey, I'm stuck. How can you help me? And it will help you walk through that. And for those that might care, it's not a public AI. You have to go to it, and it's your information. But it's been trained with the Time Bandit method, with other methods for habit building. And I think it's a really cool tool that is there for you 24 hours a day, and it's free.
Yeah, a copy of you. I'm definitely going there.
More than me. It can reason faster.
You're doing fine. Well, that was very helpful. I'm actually gonna definitely print out the 5 steps and just print them and just like have them in my office, have them around my home, and just write down the why and everything, so I have a plan and I stick to it. Also, this is gonna give me a reminder that I worked hard to build this habit, so I'm not gonna break it.
Absolutely. Get the purpose, and it sounds like for you also, don't beat yourself up if you miss a day. Get back on.
I know Gen Zers do that all the time because we're just exposed to a lot of things. So,
Yes, you are. Yes, you are. Yep. But you're doing great. You're doing great.
oh, thank you. Well, I'm out of questions. Do you have anything to share?
Yep, I don't see any questions in the queue there. So it was great talking to you again. Thank you so much.
Yeah, this has been such a great session. I've learned so much about keeping habits simple and sticking with them. My biggest takeaway is to focus on starting small, like my 10 minutes walk and parking further or going to my chores walking. And yeah, that was very helpful, Michael. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Reem. Thank you. And I'll put some links to so people can download the guide as
Please,
well.
please.
All right. Thank
All
you.
right. Thank you.